Efforts continue on multiple fronts to protect the integrity of our elections. Back in 2021, Texas Governor Greg Abbott signed into law Election Integrity Bill SB 1. It does a host of things, but among other things, it implemented a monthly check on the voter registration list to verify the accuracy of citizenship status information previously provided. Well, since that time, Texas has purged 1.1 million names from the voting rolls after the state found them to be ineligible. Now, here's the question, folks. This is the issue. Imagine if Texas had not been diligent about that. Imagine if today they had over 1 million people who were potentially about to vote and they were not eligible or legal to do so. 1 million votes is a vast number. Shouldn't this be something that's done across the entire nation? Well, joining me now to talk about this and more is J. Christian Adams. He's the president of the Public Interest Legal Foundation. Christian, welcome back to Washington Watch. Always good to have you. First, let's just start with your reaction to the announcement earlier this week by Governor Abbott about that purge.
Well, first of all, you asked the question, what if these 1 million ineligible voters were not removed from the voter rolls in Texas? And I will tell you that would be called Michigan, because in Michigan, we've been in litigation against Michigan because Secretary Jocelyn Benson won't remove at least 28,000 dead voters from the voter rolls. And we've had to fight in court. We're now in the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals against her. But look, this is good standardless maintenance. Let's hope they got it accurate. It's a little strange to see 1 million come off all at once. I watch this. Normally, it's much smaller numbers, even in big states. So I hope that means they've been doing it regularly in the past, not just catching up, and also not doing it sort of haphazardly. This can be a complicated process, but it's a good thing for states to be looking.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but that's a good point. My understanding was that they've been doing this since 2021, keeping a score of it. But it's a good point about all at once. I would say you would really offend Texas if you called them Michigan. I'm sure Texans would say that. But repeat for me again, how many dead people are on the rolls in Michigan?
Well, look, when we did a data run that led to the lawsuit, it was 27,000 or so, and that was only looking at people over the age of 70. So if you died at the age of 40 or 50 or 55 or 60 even in Michigan, we wouldn't have necessarily made that part of our lawsuit. So it's clearly more than 27,000. Some of these people have been dead, Congressman, since the 1990s. If you go to our website,
still on the rolls?
Yeah. If you go to our website of Public Interest Legal Foundation and look at the Michigan files, you can see us visiting some of their grave sites. We go and visit their graves of people who died in the 90s who are still active on the voter rolls in Michigan.
Wow. Well, I tell you, if we're going to compare Texas to Michigan, my mind just goes 1,000 directions of what I would compare Michigan with what you're talking about now. I mean, those are just unbelievable stats there. All right, let's go back to Texas, this SB 1. There's a lot more common sense actions that were part of that bill, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, Texas has been one of the leaders in making sure that the elections are clean. For example, they have a law there that if you just go out and register voters, you have to get training, you have to get deputized, and you can't engage in bad conduct. And of course, the left challenged this law in court, and it was upheld. But I could go through a lot of things that Texas has done that other states need to do and probably will never do, like California. Write that one off because they're not going to do what Texas does. And look, there's other good states out there. Florida is a model of good election administration. They get it done on election night. They can tell you who won the election in Florida. And
that's a big state. It's remarkable. But it wasn't that many years ago. Florida had problems, and they corrected it. And I agree with you. What a model state they've become. All right, Texas has frequently occurred, and not just Texas. Many are accused of suppressing minority votes with some of these cleansing processes to try to get an accurate list of who's eligible voters. How do you respond to these minority suppression argument?
Well, first of all, I always like to point out that suppression is a fake word. It's not in any federal law. It's a made-up word by the left, voter suppression, to attempt to blend the legal with the illegal. So if you have voter ID, it's voter suppression. If you clean voter rolls, it's voter suppression. And it sounds very nefarious, but it's a fake word. It doesn't exist in the law. What does exist is intimidation, coercion, and threats. There's no such thing as voter suppression, but tell that to the left. They don't like to hear it. But what it does mean, Congressman, is that states that are cleaning their voter rolls are following federal law. States have an obligation to follow federal law and have a reasonable list maintenance program that removes the deads and people who moved away. And kudos to Texas, kudos to Florida, kudos to a lot of states, Ohio, that have good laws in place and good practices to make our elections secure.
Well, and kudos to you for doing everything you can to protect the integrity of our elections, and you're doing it even right here in this conversation. We're talking about a number of states, but you also found some issues in Nevada, Clark County there. What did you find?
Terrible stuff. It breaks my heart to see how bad things have gotten in Nevada, because you have automatic mail voting in Nevada. Don't forget, most of your viewers don't know, thankfully, about this because it's a bad idea, where everybody on the voter rolls, even if they don't ask, gets a ballot mailed to them at their last known address. And those ballots are going out by the hundreds of thousands without request. And what we have found is that Nevada has lots of commercial addresses where those ballots are going improperly. Strip clubs, casinos, bars, vacant lots, liquor stores. Sonic Drive-In, even in Las Vegas, had a purported registered voter. We visited these places. You can watch that video if you Google PILF Nevada commercial addresses. And what we did is we sued Clark County and also Washoe County, which is Reno. But Clark, thankfully, took steps to fix this problem. And they are, going at the problem where they had just let it languish for years, of all these businesses and bars and strip clubs getting ballots mailed to them because they're commercial addresses. That's not how it's supposed to work.
No, that's not how it's supposed to work. What do you say to those who perhaps don't grasp just how important efforts like these are to clean up the rolls?
Yeah, when you have automatic mail voting in a swing state like Nevada, where every single registered voter gets a ballot mailed, even if they don't ask, even if they're not alive anymore, a ballot goes out. That changes the course of a lot of elections, in my view. You had a U.S. Senate race with Adam Laxalt was decided by only 7,000 votes. In that same race, we knew that 95,000 ballots went unaccounted for. We don't know what happened to them. Garbage cans, dumpsters, whatever. And so it's just the wrong way to be picking leaders by automatically mailing ballots to every single person on the list.
Especially when you know the list is so grossly inaccurate. But it's not just Texas, Michigan, Florida, whatever, Nevada. You've got other lawsuits going on, correct?
Oh, my gosh. Active from Maine to New Mexico to California and every place in between, it seems. I think we have 19 active lawsuits right now.
Wow. Well, again, hats off to you for that work. And to underscore, what you're doing is on behalf of the entire nation. And there are millions who share your concern and are just so grateful for the work you're doing. Let's talk about, if we can, for a few moments about election results. Following what we saw in 2020, many people out there may be wondering, are we going to be able to know the results on election night? Will we?
This is a national problem that undermines the consent of the governed. And we should be getting results like they do in Florida. We have a report called From Worst to First in Florida because now they get everything in on election night. We've had to sue Virginia when they were fudging state law and allowing ballots to keep rolling in for weeks without postmarks. I mean, this is an ongoing problem. And if you want to restore trust in the process, get the job done on time. Get the results in. Don't have the country languishing for days and weeks with uncertainty like happened in Michigan and all sorts of other places. Pennsylvania. I mean, it takes Philadelphia. Are you kidding me? In Philadelphia, they can't get anything done quickly. And they didn't have results for ages in Philly. So, look, we sued North Dakota to try to get a clarity on election day, meaning you can't be sending ballots in for weeks. The judge said our client didn't have standing. Judicial Watch has sued on behalf of the Libertarian Party in Mississippi to try to get some clarity on finality of the election. This is an important issue that Congress might have to address of clarifying what it means to have a single election day.
Yeah, and you bring up Mississippi. As I understand there, they've got a law that accepts and counts ballots up to 5 days after the election. Like, huh? How can you do that? And the sad truth, what I'm hearing you say is Mississippi is certainly not alone in this.
North Dakota, it's 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks, and our complaint in North Dakota when we sued there showed that some ballots were coming in without postmarks 2 weeks later in North Dakota. And, you know, like I said, our client apparently didn't have standing according to the federal judge, that threw the case out. But something's got to be done. These elections can't go on for weeks if we want to trust the results.
All right. Tell me if I am wrong, please. But does not the law require ballots to arrive by Election Day?
Boy, I wish you were right, and I think it does. There's a single Election Day statute, but,
right.
And remember, every state's different, but the federal court in Mississippi said they just have to be postmarked by Election Day to comply with that federal statute. They could come rolling in for as ever long as the Mississippi legislature decides. That's going to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. We filed a brief on this last week, and so this is something Congress might have to address if Congress ever gets the numbers to address it.
We have a lot of problems in this country. None of us ignore that fact. But beyond spiritual issues and so forth, I don't know of anything that is any greater in its importance than secure elections. If that is lost, then the voice of the people is gone. How can we ever correct course if we don't have elections of integrity? This is a major issue that has to be corrected.
Well, that's why the Public Interest Legal Foundation exists, is we do what we can fighting the courts to work on this. But, we're just one group, and this is a big issue. I think that there's a lot of very dangerous problems facing the country. I think you're right that this is probably second, maybe a close third, or a whole millions of teenagers zoned out on social media and their phones. But, I can't do anything about that one except parents can. And so I think secure elections is definitely...
We can work on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so our time's almost up. I just got to ask you before we wrap up, going into this election, bird's eye view on the election integrity fights taking place, what the future holds going into this election cycle, real quickly.
Yeah, this is going to be better than 2020. The left has not obliterated all kinds of state laws everywhere like they did with COVID in 2020. There's a lot more eyes on the game. This is going to be a much better process than it was 4 years ago. I can promise you that. So don't think your vote is not going to count.
And so, again, that just underscores what we say around here all the time, the absolute necessity to vote. We cannot approach this with an attitude, I'm just going to stay at home.
Oof, disaster. Look, I promise you the other side views this, a lot of people view this as a religion, right? This is their substitute religion. And when they're doing that, you got to go vote.
We got to go vote. Got to go vote. Pray, vote, stand. Pray, vote, stand. Thank you, J. Christian Adams. We appreciate you and all the work of the Public Interest Legal Foundation. Great job. Appreciate you coming on today.